In the shadow of World War II, the Germans built 6 underwater bunkers along the coast of Norway, a secretive project shielded from the prying eyes of Allied forces. These bunkers, hidden deep beneath the icy waters of the North Sea, were designed to serve as fortified command posts and supply caches, but their existence was never fully documented. Decades later, as the world moved on and the Cold War era faded into history, the bunkers were forgotten, ghosts of a bygone era, submerged and lost to time. Yet, whispers of their existence never completely disappeared. Fishermen spoke of strange lights and eerie noises from the depths, while conspiracy theorists spun tales of dark experiments and sinister occurrences beneath the waves. It was in the winter of 2024 that a group of adventurers, enticed by these eerie legends, decided to investigate. The group consisted of 4 members: Anna, a seasoned underwater archaeologist; Mark, a tech-savvy diver; Sarah, an environmental scientist; and Leo, a historian with a penchant for the macabre. They arrived at the small, remote fishing village of Alesund, Norway, under the cover of a heavy snowstorm. The village, with its quaint wooden houses and narrow streets, seemed almost untouched by time. The locals, wary and reserved, spoke in hushed tones about the old bunkers, but offered little in the way of guidance. Their plan was ambitious: to locate and explore the remaining bunkers using advanced sonar equipment and underwater drones. Armed with cutting-edge technology, they set out on a research vessel named the Aurora, its sleek frame cutting through the stormy waters with a sense of purpose. As the vessel approached the coordinates they had pinpointed, the weather worsened. The wind howled with an unnatural ferocity, and the sea churned violently, as if the ocean itself were protesting their intrusion. Anna and her team felt a shiver of apprehension, but they pressed on, driven by curiosity and a sense of adventure. The sonar readings were unsettling. The data showed large, rectangular shapes on the ocean floor, signs of the old bunkers. Yet, there was something else. The readings fluctuated wildly, as if the very nature of the underwater structures was defying the technology. As night fell, the storm raged on, and the crew prepared to deploy their underwater drones. Mark, with his fingers deftly manipulating the controls, guided the drone towards the first identified structure. The drone's camera feed flickered as it descended into the murky depths. "Look at that." Sarah's voice trembled as the drone's lights illuminated the exterior of the bunker. It was partially buried in sand and coral, its metal surface scarred and rusted, but unmistakably intact. The drone entered through a gaping hole in the bunker's side, revealing a cavernous, dimly lit interior. The walls were lined with ancient equipment and faded symbols, the air inside thick with a musty, metallic smell. A chill ran through the team as the drone's lights revealed a series of long-abandoned command posts and sleeping quarters. "This place is a time capsule," Leo remarked, his eyes wide with a mix of awe and dread, "but it feels wrong." As the drone moved deeper, it stumbled upon a series of strange markings, scratches and symbols carved into the walls. Some appeared to be runes or hieroglyphs, others were more abstract, almost as if they had been made in a frenzy. Suddenly, the drone's feed cut out, plunging the screen into darkness. Mark's face turned pale as he scrambled to regain the connection. "What happened?" Anna asked urgently. "I'm not sure," Mark replied, his voice strained. "It's like the signal was blocked. Something's interfering." The storm outside intensified, and the vessel rocked violently. The crew braced themselves as the wind howled like a chorus of anguished souls. Anna and her team exchanged uneasy glances. They had come seeking answers, but now it felt as though something more sinister was awakening from the depths. Unbeknownst to them, the bunker was not as abandoned as they had hoped. As the night dragged on, they decided to send in a team of divers to investigate further despite the worsening weather. Anna, Mark, Sarah, and Leo suited up and prepared to enter the icy waters. The moment they submerged, the cold water seemed to seep into their bones. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing the dilapidated bunker below. As they approached the entrance, a sudden, inexplicable pressure built up around them, and the water grew colder still. Inside, the bunker was as eerie as it had appeared on the drone's feed. The divers' movements echoed in the confined space, their breathing amplified by the surrounding silence. They moved cautiously through the corridors, their lights revealing more strange markings and deteriorated equipment. The air was stale, and the feeling of being watched was palpable. Suddenly, Sarah let out a gasp. "Look at this." The team gathered around, their lights illuminating a series of strange symbols etched into the walls. But there was something more unsettling, a series of recent footprints in the dust, as if someone or something had been there recently. A low, mournful moan echoed through the bunker, sending a chill down their spines. It was as if the bunker itself were alive, whispering secrets from a forgotten past. The divers exchanged nervous glances, but their curiosity drove them forward. As they explored deeper into the bunker, the eerie atmosphere grew more oppressive. The walls seemed to close in around them, and the shadows danced menacingly in the flickering light. The sense of dread was almost tangible. Suddenly, Leo stopped in his tracks. "Do you hear that?" The others paused, their ears straining to catch the faint sound of scraping and whispering. It was as if something or someone was moving just out of sight. The team moved forward cautiously, their nerves on edge. They arrived at a large chamber, its walls adorned with faded murals and symbols. At the center of the room stood a massive, rusted control panel covered in layers of grime and decay. Anna approached the panel, her flashlight illuminating the intricate symbols etched into its surface. "These markings," she said, her voice trembling. "They're not German, they're something else." As she examined the panel, the chamber's temperature dropped sharply and the air grew thick with an unnatural chill. The diver's breath turned to mist, and their movements became labored. Without warning, the control panel began to hum, and the room was bathed in a dim, flickering light. The symbols on the panel seemed to glow with an otherworldly energy, and the whispering grew louder, more urgent. The divers looked around in horror as the walls of the chamber began to shift, revealing hidden passages and dark recesses. The bunker, it seemed, was not simply a relic of the past. It was a living entity, its secrets stirring from their long slumber. The humming from the control panel grew louder, filling the chamber with an almost rhythmic vibration. The divers, their faces lit by the eerie glow of the symbols, exchanged anxious glances. The sensation of being watched intensified, and the once faint whispers became a cacophony of disjointed voices. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, her voice cracking with fear. "I don't know," Anna replied, her gaze fixed on the glowing symbols. "But it's like the bunker is responding to us." Leo approached the panel cautiously, his flashlight revealing more intricate carvings that seemed to writhe and shift before his eyes. The symbols appeared to move as if they were alive, coalescing into patterns that defied logic. Suddenly, the chamber's temperature plummeted further, and a cold wind blew through the room, extinguishing their flashlights. The divers struggled to relight their torches, their breaths coming out in frosty puffs. As the lights flickered back on, they saw that the murals on the walls had changed. Where there had been faded images of soldiers and machinery, there were now grotesque figures and nightmarish scenes, their eyes seeming to follow the divers with malevolent intent. Anna's hand trembled as she reached for the control panel, trying to decipher the symbols. These markings, they're ancient, but they don't match any known language or script. It's almost as if they're a form of warning. As she spoke, a loud crash echoed through the bunker, shaking the walls. The divers flinched, their hearts pounding. The noise seemed to come from one of the hidden passages revealed by the shifting walls. Mark, ever the tech enthusiast, tried to use his equipment to get a read on their surroundings, but the devices were malfunctioning. Static filled the screens and the underwater radio was silent. "Something's interfering with our tech," he said, frustration evident in his voice. Leo's eyes were fixed on one of the murals, where a figure with hollow eyes appeared to move closer with each flicker of the light. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice urgent. "This place is messing with our equipment and our minds." Anna hesitated, her curiosity battling with her sense of self-preservation. "We're so close to uncovering what this place is hiding. I just need a little more time." Before she could finish, another loud crash reverberated through the bunker. This time, it was followed by a guttural growl that seemed to come from the depths of the structure itself. The divers' panic reached a fever pitch as they turned to see shadows moving in the corners of their vision, flickering like dark shapes against the walls. Sarah, visibly shaken, pointed towards the exit. "Anna, we need to leave now. This place isn't safe." Reluctantly, Anna agreed. The team made their way back towards the entrance, their path illuminated only by the dim light of their flashlights. The bunker seemed to resist their exit, with the walls shifting and closing off passages as they progressed. As they neared the exit, the sounds of whispering grew louder, more insistent. The voices seemed to be calling out to them, their words unintelligible but filled with a sense of urgency and despair. The cold, almost tangible, seemed to cling to their skin, making every movement a struggle. Just as they reached the entrance, the control panel let out a final, deafening hum before falling silent. The light from the symbols vanished, plunging the chamber into darkness once more. The divers scrambled out, their breaths ragged, their nerves frayed. Back on the surface, the storm had begun to subside, though the sky remained a foreboding slate of gray. The crew of the Aurora helped them aboard, their faces showing concern as they noted the divers' pale, shaken appearance. "What happened down there?" the captain asked, his voice filled with concern. Anna took a deep breath, struggling to compose herself. "We don't know. Something in that bunker. It's not just a relic of the past. It's alive, and it doesn't want to be disturbed." As the crew worked to secure the divers and prepare for departure, Anna, Mark, Sarah, and Leo huddled together, their minds racing with the implications of what they had discovered. The bunker's secrets were far from revealed, and the sense of dread they had felt was not something they could easily shake. Leo looked out over the now calming sea, his face etched with worry. "If there are more bunkers like this, we have to be careful. This one was bad enough. I can't imagine what the others might hold." Sarah nodded in agreement. "Whatever is in those bunkers, it's been waiting for decades. It's only a matter of time before it's disturbed again." As they made their way back to the safety of the shore, a feeling of foreboding settled over them. The sea, once a seemingly benign expanse, now felt like a dark, threatening abyss. The ancient bunkers, hidden beneath the waves, were not merely remnants of a past war. They were a gateway to something far more sinister. The journey back to Alisund was marked by an uneasy silence. The divers sat in a trance-like state, their minds haunted by the inexplicable events they had encountered in the bunker. The crew of the Aurora worked in hushed tones, their concern evident as they glanced at the group. As the vessel docked in the quiet harbor of Alisund, the first light of dawn began to pierce through the heavy clouds. The village, still blanketed in snow, appeared serene in contrast to the turmoil the team had experienced. But the calm was deceptive. Anna, Mark, Sarah, and Leo knew that the horrors they had glimpsed were far from over. The team convened in a small, dimly lit cafe near the docks, seeking refuge from the bitter cold and the relentless storm that had settled over the village. Over steaming mugs of coffee, they discussed their next steps. "We need to understand what we're dealing with," Anna said, her voice hoarse. "The symbols, the whispers, it's like something was trying to communicate with us." Leo nodded, his face pale. "And it wasn't just the bunker's equipment acting up. It felt like the very air was alive, like the place itself was reacting to our presence." Sarah shivered, even in the warmth of the cafe. Those markings weren't just random. They seemed almost conscious. And the temperature drops, the whispers, everything points to something supernatural. Mark, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. "We should dig into the historical records. If these bunkers were built during the war, there might be archives or old documents that can shed light on what they were really used for." Anna agreed, her eyes reflecting determination. "That's a good idea. We'll need to get to the local archives and see if there's anything that could explain the bizarre phenomena we experienced." After breakfast, the team set out for the village's small museum and historical archives. The building was a modest structure, its exterior adorned with traditional Norwegian decor. Inside, they were greeted by an elderly archivist named Ingrid, who seemed both curious and wary of the visitors' intent. As the team explained their purpose, Ingrid's eyes widened with a mixture of concern and intrigue. "You're investigating the old bunkers. They are indeed a part of our history, though not many people speak of them. There are records, but some of them are quite peculiar." Ingrid led them to a back room filled with dusty shelves and aged documents. The team spent hours poring over old maps, military reports, and personal diaries from the war. Most of the documents were mundane, detailing routine operations and logistics. However, some stood out. Cryptic notes and hastily scribbled warnings about strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena. Anna found a particularly intriguing diary entry from a German officer stationed at one of the bunkers. The entry, dated late in the war, mentioned unsettling experiences, strange noises, inexplicable equipment failures, and a growing sense of dread among the soldiers. It seems like the officers themselves were experiencing something unusual, Anna said, her voice laden with unease. They were scared, and they knew something was wrong. Leo found another document detailing the construction of the bunkers. It mentioned special precautions and ancient symbols of protection. Though the language was vague and the context unclear, it looks like they were more than just military installations. They were built with an awareness of something beyond ordinary threats. As the afternoon wore on, Ingrid provided a final piece of information, a local legend about the bunkers. The legend spoke of an ancient, malevolent entity that had been sealed away long before the Germans arrived, and that the bunkers were built to contain it. The tales were dismissed by most as folklore, but Ingrid's serious demeanor suggested she took them seriously. Many in the village believe that whatever was sealed in those bunkers is still there, Ingrid said quietly, and some believe that the war was just a distraction, a cover for something much darker. The team left the archives with a heavy sense of foreboding. They had learned little about the true nature of the entities they might be dealing with, but they had uncovered enough to know that their investigation was far from over. Back at the Aurora, the storm had intensified again, the wind howling and the waves crashing against the shore with renewed fury. The team prepared for their next dive, knowing they would need to explore another bunker to understand the full extent of the menace they were confronting. The following day they set out for a second bunker, this one located further from the shore. The weather was harsh and the sea was choppy, but the team pressed on, driven by their need to uncover the truth. As they descended into the cold, dark waters, the sense of dread was palpable, each member of the team feeling the weight of their previous experience pressing down on them. The second bunker was similar in design to the first, though it was less damaged by time and the elements. The team approached with caution, their lights cutting through the murky water. As they entered the bunker, they were struck by an immediate sense of foreboding. The air was colder than before, and the oppressive atmosphere seemed even more pronounced. As they explored the bunker's interior, they found more of the strange symbols and markings. Some of the equipment appeared to be in better condition, but there was a pervasive sense of wrongness, as if the very air was thick with malevolent energy. Suddenly, the team's lights flickered, and the temperature dropped sharply. The control panel in this bunker, unlike the first, was intact and operational. The symbols on the panel glowed with an ominous light, and the low hum that emanated from it seemed almost to resonate with a deep, primal fear. Sarah's breath came out in visible puffs, and she shivered uncontrollably. "It's like it's alive," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Anna approached the control panel, trying to decipher its purpose. If the other bunkers are similar, we might be able to find a pattern or code that explains what's happening. As they worked, the shadows in the bunker seemed to move, shifting and swirling with an eerie fluidity. The whispers from the previous bunker returned, now louder and more insistent. They felt like an invisible presence was watching them, waiting for them to uncover its secrets. The divers' equipment began to malfunction again, and the oppressive cold grew even more unbearable. The bunker seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, its walls vibrating with an ominous resonance. Suddenly, one of the walls cracked open, revealing a hidden chamber behind it. The team hesitated but decided to investigate, their sense of dread outweighing their curiosity. Inside the chamber, they found a series of ancient artifacts and relics, all marked with the same disturbing symbols they had seen earlier. There was an altar at the center of the room, surrounded by strange markings and objects that seemed to defy explanation. Anna's flashlight fell on a large, ornate book resting on the altar. The book's cover was covered in dust, and its pages were yellowed with age. As she opened it, she saw that the pages were filled with more of the cryptic symbols and writings they had encountered. "What is this?" Mark asked, peering over Anna's shoulder. "I don't know," Anna replied, "but it might hold the key to understanding what's really going on here." As they examined the book, the air around them grew colder and the whispers grew louder, more frantic. The divers felt a surge of fear and unease, as if something was trying to force them out of the bunker. The presence seemed to be closing in on them, and the team knew they had to leave. They quickly gathered the artifacts and made their way back to the exit, their hearts pounding with a sense of impending doom. As they surfaced and returned to the Aurora, the storm had worsened, the waves crashing violently against the ship. The crew helped them aboard, their faces reflecting the concern and fear that mirrored the divers' own. Anna, Mark, Sarah, and Leo huddled together, their minds racing with the implications of what they had discovered. The ancient entity they had uncovered was far from dormant, and the bunkers were not merely relics of the past. They were the prison of something dark and malevolent. The team knew that their investigation was far from over. The remaining bunkers held untold secrets, and the entity that had been awakened was waiting for them. As they prepared to face the unknown, they could only hope that they would be able to uncover the truth before it was too late. The storm battered the Aurora relentlessly as the team prepared for their final dive. The ship creaked and groaned with each wave, the tension among the divers palpable. Anna, Mark, Sarah, and Leo were exhausted but resolute. They had seen enough to know that the bunkers held more than historical interest. They were the key to understanding an ancient and malevolent force. With the weather worsening, the team realized that time was running out. They planned their dive meticulously, choosing to explore the remaining bunker closest to the surface. If there was any chance of uncovering the full truth, it would be now or never. As they descended into the icy waters once more, the visibility was poor and the cold was biting. Their dive suits provided some protection, but the chilling fear from their previous encounters made every movement feel like a struggle. The ocean seemed to close in around them, the dark depths pressing in on their senses. The final bunker, unlike the others, was eerily silent. Its exterior, partially covered in seaweed and marine growth, was less damaged but bore a foreboding presence. The team approached cautiously, their lights cutting through the darkness, revealing an entrance similar to the others they had explored. Inside, the bunker was unusually pristine. The air was still and heavy, and the silence was almost oppressive. The walls were lined with more of the strange symbols and markings they had seen before, but this time, they seemed more detailed, almost as if they were telling a story. Anna, with her flashlight, illuminated a large central chamber, its walls covered with elaborate murals depicting scenes of ancient rituals and battles. At the center of the chamber stood a massive stone altar covered in dust and cobwebs. The altar was adorned with symbols and strange artifacts, some of which matched those they had seen in the other bunkers. As they examined the chamber, Sarah discovered an ancient ornate box hidden beneath the altar. It was intricately decorated with symbols and seemed to pulse with an almost imperceptible energy. The team carefully opened the box, revealing a collection of ancient scrolls and relics. Leo, his hands trembling, began to unroll one of the scrolls. The text was written in an ancient script that was both familiar and alien. It spoke of an entity known as the Bound One, a being of immense power that had been imprisoned in the depths long before the bunkers were constructed. According to the scrolls, the Bound One was a dark force that thrived on fear and despair. It was said to have been sealed away by ancient protectors using powerful symbols and rituals. The bunkers, constructed by the Germans, were built over the site of this ancient prison to ensure that the entity remained contained. "This confirms everything," Anna said, her voice trembling. "The bunkers were never just military installations. They were built to contain something far more dangerous." The team continued to explore the chamber, their nerves on edge. As they moved, the air grew colder, and the oppressive silence was broken by the faint sound of distant whispers. It was as if the Bound One was aware of their presence and was trying to reach out to them. Suddenly, the chamber's temperature dropped sharply, and a low, rumbling growl echoed through the bunker. The divers' lights flickered, and the walls seemed to tremble with a dark energy. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and the sense of dread became almost unbearable. Anna and her team knew they had to act quickly. They gathered the scrolls and relics, hoping to find a way to reinforce the ancient seals and prevent the entity from escaping. As they worked, the growling grew louder and the walls began to crack and shift, as if reacting to their intrusion. Mark worked frantically with his equipment, trying to stabilize the signals and prevent further interference. "We need to finish this quickly," he said, his voice strained. "The entity is reacting to us." As the team completed their preparations, they felt a sudden, intense pressure as if the very air was being squeezed out of their lungs. The walls of the chamber cracked open, revealing a hidden passage leading deeper into the bunker. The divers hesitated, but knew they had no choice. They followed the passage, their lights revealing a final, hidden chamber. At its center stood an ancient, intricate seal, covered in the same symbols they had seen throughout the bunkers. The seal was glowing with a faint, eerie light, and the air around it was thick with a palpable sense of malevolence. Anna, with shaking hands, carefully placed the relics and scrolls around the seal, using the symbols to reinforce the ancient protections. As she worked, the growling intensified, and the whispers became a chaotic roar. The chamber seemed to pulse with dark energy, and the team felt an overwhelming sense of fear. Finally, the seal was completed, and the energy in the chamber began to stabilize. The growling and whispers faded, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted slightly. The divers, exhausted and shaken, knew that they had done what they could to contain the entity. With their task complete, they made their way back to the surface, their nerves frayed, but their mission accomplished. As they emerged from the water, the storm had abated, and the sea was eerily calm. The team felt a profound sense of relief, knowing that they had prevented something truly horrific from escaping. Back on the shore, as they prepared to leave Alicent, Anna and her team reflected on their harrowing experience. They had uncovered the truth about the ancient bunkers and the dark force they had contained, but the knowledge came with a heavy price. The bunkers, once forgotten relics of a past war, had revealed their true nature as prisons for a malevolent entity. The team knew that their discovery was only the beginning, and that the secrets of the underwater bunkers would continue to haunt their dreams. As they sailed away from the remote village, the sea stretched out before them, its surface now calm and serene. But beneath the waves, the ancient entity remained imprisoned, its dark presence a reminder of the dangers that lay hidden in the depths. Anna, Mark, Sarah, and Leo knew that their lives had been forever changed by their encounter with the unknown. The bunkers were no longer just historical artifacts. They were a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface of the world. And as they looked out over the tranquil sea, they couldn't shake the feeling that, deep down, something was still watching, waiting for the day when it might be freed from its ancient prison. The village of Alicent returned to its quiet existence, its people unaware of the horrors that had been uncovered beneath the waves. The storm had passed, and the sea returned to its usual calm, but the memory of the underwater bunkers lingered in the minds of those who had ventured into their depths. In the quiet of the night, the ocean held its secrets close. The bunkers, now sealed once more, remained as silent sentinels beneath the waves. The dark force contained within them slumbered, its whispers fading into the depths, waiting for the day when it might be disturbed again. And as the world moved on, the legend of the ancient bunkers and the dark entity they contained would become a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers that lay hidden in the unknown. The sea, with its dark, unfathomable depths, would continue to guard its secrets, its watchful gaze ever vigilant.